Grand Rising. Garashunya la sita yetura sata. Garashotong garashiata nuna. Sanyaka oshara gatin sato. Garasho ya satuna ya. Da sanyuna ra shatakur stati. Light language is something that's not of this world. People that are channeling in this language is something etherical from outside of this realm. I wanted to speak about a few things as I'm going on this beautiful walk here. This is a new place I'm exploring. It's absolutely gorgeous down here. Look at this green grass. And as an Arizonian, let me tell you, the sight of green grass, it's so refreshing, and even just feeling it, under our feet. Which I really am tempted to take my shoes off and do that. I don't want to make this too long, but there is an unveiling happening. An unveiling of dimensional layers of awareness. If you look at these trees, how they're almost like connected, touching each other, webbed of forestry, like neurons of the brain. They're connecting with memories, connecting with codes of a divine nature. And I've been unraveling some things. There are some of us who are not from this realm. And it's been a journey discovering this. And some of us may have had lives here before, but usually not many. And as someone who does Akashic record reading, one of my higher selves, she's a Lyran, and she is a guardian of the Akashic records, but that's not just humanity. It's a universal Akash. And Akash is like a library of memories and lessons. It's almost like a back server to a game. So what I felt pulled to talk about was, I enjoy computer games. I have been involved in creating avatars on the virtual game of Second Life since 2014. Um, and, I have been on this mission, discovery of myself, since actually about 2005. But I didn't really connect with it until about 2009, 2010, around there. It was a process and unraveling of this world, this dimensional world that we live in. And in Second Life, it's a virtual place where you can create your own avatar, create your own role play, whatever it is you want. Build your own story, go to role play communities. You can create a family, and make all kinds of connections with people as a avatar, right? So a few years into this realm, I made a connection. I realized, oh, you know what? This is actually what we're doing. Or when we play the Sims games, we're the person at the screen, we're sitting at a computer playing these different characters, right? So that's basically what we're doing here when we call our higher selves. Some have many more than others, but it all depends on where you come from and if you're a new soul or ancient soul or old soul. And there's no hierarchy in this. It's just all based on experience, okay? And how long you've been playing the game. Because the game started outside of this world, actually. It started when this universe was created, and the Lyrans actually created. They were the guardians of the Stargate to this universe. Okay, and I can go on about this. This is deep in layers, but they created a beautiful world called Avalon, and there were these beings that came in from another universe. They broke in, kind of like, oh, we have a griefer, right? If you've played online video games and stuff, you know that there's griefing that happens. Someone comes in with a code and everything starts to unravel, and the world you're in, the reality that you're in, starts to go into chaos mode. Okay, and when this happens, we start freaking out, right? All the beautiful reality we were just in just got disrupted. And the world falls apart and the screen goes black. And that's what happened with Avalon, okay? The Lyrans created Avalon, this beautiful world that's actually very similar to Earth. Earth is very similar to Avalon as I remember it, okay? And what I remember Avalon being is this beautiful planet filled with mountains and landscapes and rivers, and there was farming. And the farming, they were agricultural beings, and they had technology and domed cities. The reasons why they had domes is because sometimes their the atmosphere would not be safe for the environment, so everybody would have to go into the dome. It all had to do with where, their placement within the universe and the different stars and suns that they were around and all of that. And I believe Lyra is in the Vega star system, right? Star Vega. Okay. So they were the first Christ consciousness beings in this universe that started incarnation. Hi there. And so basically, when Avalon was destroyed, they decided to create a multi-dimensional world very similar, but they wanted it to be a place where it was multi-dimensional. Earth is not just a 3D planet, okay? There's many dimensions to Earth, and layers, okay? So they wanted to create a multi-dimensional planet where souls could learn the lessons they needed to learn to rebuild that which was lost from the beginning, okay? And basically, humanity is now getting to the point where humanity is ready to go forward with this ancient wisdom that we have been holding on to. So when we come through the veil, think of it like layers. The more dense of a reality that you enter in, the more you start to forget who you were, or who you are. Okay? And think of what I like to tell people is, they're like, oh, if they're really here, why can't we see them? Well, you've experienced ghosts and other beings, right? If you've experienced ghosts and things moving and feelings and orbs and lights and all kinds of paranormal stuff, then you definitely know there's another realm there that we can't tap into. So why is it that we can't see these other dimensions, right? And some of us can as we raise our vibration. And this is all based on frequency, okay? And your frequency entails your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your intuitive state. All of those create a vibration, okay? And a vibration is like a ceiling fan. When we first turn on the ceiling fan and it starts out slow, we can see the blades, right? That's the third dimensional realm. When it starts going a little faster, sometimes we can see a blade or two. That's the fourth dimensional realm. And then when it starts spinning super fast, super fast, that is when we get to the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, seventh, and higher. And it starts spinning so fast we cannot see the blade. And that's where we're out of our realm. And we don't have interaction. But, however, these beings that are in these other dimensions, they can drop down in frequency to say, hi, we're here, and then go back up. Okay? And so this game that we're playing, it's like we are the avatars. The movie Avatar, by the way, was no mistake. James Cameron is definitely tapping into all of this without actually coming forward and saying that. But we do have avatars that we create in different worlds and dimensions. So there's an Earth in the third dimensional field. There's an Earth in the fourth dimensional field. There's an Earth in the fifth dimensional field. There's an Earth in the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, and the 10th. Once we get to the 10th dimensional realm of Earth is when we start to graduate Earth. If we are able to connect with the beings that are in the 9th, 10th, and 11th dimension, guess what? You are vibrating high enough, okay? Obviously, you have connection to that realm, and you know why? Because on the back server, your person, your higher self, is actually has access to that realm, okay? And so basically, they are able to relay information to you by plugging into that dimension for a moment so that you can download information from these higher beings. It's like, okay, I'm going to write this code. Let's download. Boom. Okay. It's just like that. And then it's translated here in the 3rd dimension. And then, so if you are able to get information from these higher beings, that means that you are already in that state. Your higher self is already in that state, which means you are about to graduate Earth School. Okay? But here's the beautiful thing about this time. Okay? Many souls here on Earth are Earth souls. And they have most of them only graduated to the 5th or 6th dimension in between lives, okay? And then they come back to relearn, and their souls incarnated here first before anywhere else. So they're younger souls, okay? And now when a young soul who says, I'm from Sirius, actually they could be just from the 6th dimensional Earth plane, which is very much like Sirius, because there are Sirius beings in the 6th dimensional Earth that are assisting those in between lifetimes to help them process the past lifetime they just experienced on Earth and get ready to incarnate again to go through more soul evolution. Okay, for those of us galactic souls, it's a little bit different. We have already been to other places in this universe and gone through soul lessons on other planets. But because Earth is a very young planet who's never gone through this ascension process, and the souls within her that she's carrying that are on this ascension are being assisted by those of us who've already done this multiple times. Okay? It's like the wizards, we're the Gandalfs that have come in here to help you. And again, it's not about hierarchy. It's about with experience. So let's go to Gandalf. Gandalf is a wizard in the movie Lord of the Rings. Through experiences that he endures or volunteers for, which we have done, volunteering in certain missions on Earth and other planets, we level up. And it's not about hierarchy. It has to do with experience. And I'm going to keep repeating this because there are many people who are awakening, tapping into psychic abilities, channeling in information, but their ego is still wounded. Okay? Their ego is still wounded. Their heart space is still closed. They have not opened their heart fully and are not in a space of being able to connect with humanity in a compassionate way as a whole. Okay? And this is about the lesson of detachment. What did Gandalf do when the hobbits were in trouble? And sometimes they were like, Gandalf, you left us, right? He knew that they would be okay, but it didn't serve his ego to stay with them. He knew he had important missions to do. He loved them dearly, and he hoped that he knew that they would be all right, but at the same time, he wanted to be there, but he had to fulfill his mission. His heart was open, because he knew what was what was more important in the end, right? So those of us wizards that are here, those of us who are Gandalfs, okay, I just walked over a stick. Something was under my legs. I'm like, what? And when I say detachment, I have to conclude this, that detachment is not about unfeeling. It is totally about feeling, being compassionate. But it's not being attached to other people's ego, not being attached to other people's projections and things like that. It's about understanding. Here, look at this tree. Perfect timing. Understanding that one's suffering, this poor tree, is coming. It looks like it's dealt with a lot. You can tell. It's definitely unraveling. It's tired. It's ready to give up. But it's still hanging on, right? It's still hanging on. It's still, have a little few lively branches, right? Okay. So the wizard looks at this tree, this being that is angry, upset, projecting their anger onto you, but you're not taking it on as a wizard because you know that they're just reacting out of from the ego, right? So detaching from the ego is there for survival. The ego is there for survival. It serves its purpose. It was much needed in the times where humanity was very much embedded in the third dimensional world. But now, as we are ascending, the ego only serves its purpose to teach us lessons of the heart and the mind. Okay? And this is where we have to use discernment with love and compassion. When we meet people who they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to feel special, they want everyone to know how important they are. Every single person on this planet is important. Okay? Even someone who has committed heinous crimes, they're still important. Why? Because God created them. They serve a purpose. That purpose might be duality. That purpose might be an act of duality so that someone else learns compassion. Whoever it is they affected, there's an act of God within what they did, perhaps. It's like you playing your video games of an avatar, and you're playing a game that has duality in it, where one person's a bad guy, the other one is a good guy. And we create the hero story, right? In every game, every movie, there's a hero. But you can't have a hero without duality. Whether that hero is yourself or someone else you love or who comes into your life, you cannot experience a hero without duality. You cannot experience healing without duality. You cannot experience growth without duality. So this is why this game was created. And these beings who hijacked grief into our universe and also into this world, what was their purpose? Again, their purpose was duality. In retrospect, when we stand back, we see the ultimate game. That's the name of my movie, by the way, that I'm creating. It's the ultimate game. And what happens in the ultimate game? We level up. We go through different scenarios. We fight the big bosses, right? And with each big boss that we battle, we level up with experience. We become the wizards, the druids, the elves, whatever. And the beautiful thing is, we are free to do what we want in this game. But there are consequences. If you decide to cheat, let's say someone wants to try and cheat, although that doesn't really exist in this reality. You can try and cheat, but what all it does is sometimes if we cheat and we skip a level, well, we miss the points that we were supposed to earn by defeating that boss, but we didn't earn those points. So therefore, we don't get that specific shield that will protect us when we get to the next boss. And so therefore, well, you got to cheat again. And then what happens? You're not really growing. You're actually staying by delusion. You're actually staying at a lower level than you think you are. And this is where I start talking about people who have illusions of grandeur and and it's not always their fault of their own, but it's their own wounded ego and not getting the healing that they need, and not opening their heart enough with compassion. Instead, there's judgment, there's blame, there's fear, there's trauma, projection, triggers, all of this. And they want to create themselves as some god or goddess of the past instead of actually going within and healing your human self, because you came here to be human. A humble human, carrying the codes of a galactic being. You didn't come here to show off to everybody and be like, hey, look at me, I am this and I am that, and da 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 da. I'm gonna stand on a stage and tell everyone what is up. It does serve a purpose in its own way, but at the same time, you're only feeding your ego. And as I love everybody, all my soul brothers and sisters, that's not how you connect with people. You connect with people by actually being raw and seeing them with an open heart, forgiveness, compassion, letting go of who you think you're supposed to be in this life. Just be. Just be. Just be love. Just be compassion. Just be your Christ itself. And with that, and the codes you're carrying, all will fall into place. Lately I've been reading some posts on social media. These people that think they are this high to do person, like this one lady said, oh, Three Eye Atlas, that's my ark that I built, that I'm bringing here. And I created it. And I'm like, okay, I have to like take a step back and process this. Like, I wanted to comment. Like, there were a lot of people that were being mean to her. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to respond in that matter. I'm not going to respond at all. I'm going to see it for what it is. There may be some things she's channeling in that is aligned and correct, but there may be some things that she is channeling in that is feeding her wounded ego so that she can feel important. And I get it because I've been there myself. I have done that. If you look at some of my past videos, like especially before I moved here, you'll see an aspect of myself that had a wounded ego. And then it turns into spiritual egotism. Okay. And why does this happen? Because the trauma and the PTSD is so strong, and the wounds are so strong that it terrifies them to actually feel it and hold it and acknowledge it and be open with others about it. You'll be burying a part of yourself that is vulnerable. And this is especially hard for men. They don't want to be vulnerable. So they will create a delusion of grandeur, possibly, that they are a god or a special being that has come down here. I am Thor incarnated. You know, I could say I am Freya incarnated. And so, but there's something I've recently come to awareness of. I am carrying the codes of Freya. I am carrying the codes of Isis. I am carrying the codes of Mother Mary. I am carrying the codes of Grandmother Spider from the Navajo. But that does not mean I am them. We are carrying archetypal codes in order to empower us to do the work we came here to do, to become the wizards in the Middle Earth, right? The Middle Earth is actually the fourth dimensional realm between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. They didn't name that just by accident, by the way. Which is why there's elves and wizards and those, what do they call them? And Mordor and all of that, right? That's the fourth dimensional realm. Anyway, what was I getting at? Oh yeah. So these are codes that we're carrying from these archetypes. And then I've also discovered just recently, by the way, thanks to my roommate, we're helping each other unlock some things, which is absolutely beautiful. And she told me that she saw a session of Bashar, the guy who channels Bashar, who I actually got to meet in person once, and he's an amazing guy, by the way. And he doesn't sound at all like Bashar in person when he's not channeling. But anyway, she said that a lot of us who are who are not from this world have the only way we could incarnate here is to carry the codes of some past lives that are not ours. And I kind of got this idea a while ago, like last year, when there's this past life who I thought was my past life for a while, for a few years now. But I'm realizing that this past life is just our codes that I'm bringing into this dimensional space for the woman who did experience that incarnation to help with the healing of this world. Okay? And it is not one that I actually lived. And this makes so much sense to me because I have memories of it, but it doesn't, the emotional connection was missing a little bit. Okay? And I was like, why can't I tap into the emotional part of this past life? Because there's other past lives. I can feel every single emotion that I remember in my memories. But this one is a little bit disconnected. And I could not tap into the reason for this until now. And so now I realize it's because I'm carrying the codes of that past life to help this beautiful woman with this beautiful spirit soul with this healing of this past life, because she cannot do it, but she wants to be a part of it, of what's happening right now. I feel like I am a friend of hers because as I read, she was a famous person, by the way, in the 1920s. But I felt like I knew her. I feel like I know her. But it's not me. She is a very good friend of mine, perhaps soul family. And I decided I will carry your codes from that past life and I will heal it for her. Man, I almost got emotional there. And so I asked my higher self on the way driving out here to this beautiful space, how many lives have I actually lived here on Earth? And they said 4. I've only been here 4 times. I'm like, what? But they were very significant lifetimes. The first one was Nepal. I was in Nepal. The second one, I was in Africa. I was part of an African tribe. The third one was as Yeshua's sister. The fourth one was as a Nordic Viking young woman who then was separated from her tribe, kidnapped, and then she was taken to England and abused and mistreated. And then she escaped and she went to Ireland, Scotland, and found a secret island, and it was where the schools of mysteries were, that was created by Merlin. And it was during that time that she lived to be, okay, they're saying 102. She lived to be 102 years old, and she ascended in that lifetime. I ascended in that lifetime, and that was my last lifetime here. These other lifetimes that I have thought were mine are ones that I'm carrying with me. I thought I had a past life as a Navajo, but there was some emotional disconnection. I could feel the emotion of the woman who experienced the pain and the suffering, and that was her family was killed at the Custer Hill, the Buffalo, was it Buffalo Hill? I can't think of it. Over in South Dakota, where there was that thing with Custer, where many Native Americans were killed. Anyways, I've been there, and I felt it, and I just trembled. But anyway, I am carrying that one. The woman who suffered the loss of her sons and husband in that. She was Navajo, married a Sioux. This is why I feel really connected to the Navajo people and the Native Americans. Okay. Now I'm also carrying the codes of Isis, because I do have memories of being in Africa and Egypt. I was in the Jandara. Okay. So when I was in Africa, that past lifetime, okay, I was in Dandara, okay, and I was in the temple. I left my tribe and went to Egypt to find out more, because I felt like there was more that I needed to know. So I left my tribe and I traveled to Egypt, and I became one of the, you can call it the Hathor. Yeah, I was in there. So that, and then the fourth one, that was the second lifetime, I think. And then the third lifetime was Yeshua's sister. The fourth lifetime was a Viking. Those are the 4 lifetimes I've lived ever here on Earth. The other past lives that I feel connected with, they're not mine. I'm carrying them for other people. So this answers a lot of questions that when people have come to me, like, does this mean I'm Bastet? Does this mean that I am Osiris? Does this mean that I have asked the same question? Because I'm very connected with Isis, and I can even tap into her memories. Does that mean I'm Isis? No. But I served Isis in Dandara. But I'm carrying a part of her code and her memories, because these are the codes that each of us are carrying different codes, because we're rebuilding the system from the back way by incarnating here, and thus creating a new earth, raising the vibration of the third dimensional into the fourth and the fifth. And this is why we came here, because originally Earth was in the fifth dimension, but she fell. She fell into the fourth and into the third eventually. But it was all by design. It's all by design. There was nothing by accident. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. I hope you enjoyed this transmission, and that you all have a beautiful Sunday and the rest of your week. May you all be blessed and feel the love of God in your heart, because we're about to meet the God within. And the God within has created this beautiful world. All of us have created this world, by the way, with thought and intention and creative energy. Recreate this beauty by how we feel, how we think, what we do. Are you going to take responsibility for it? I think it's about time we do. I love you all. Bye-bye.